Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to talk about the rules of procedure and conduct inside the Parliament. Now, under Rule 203 of the Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in the Upper House, Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankhar has asked the Committee of Privileges to investigate the alleged breach of privilege by 12 MPs, 9 from the Congress and 3 from Aam Aadmi Party, for reportedly entering the well of the House, shouting slogans and obstructing its proceedings. He also referred to the committee a question of alleged breach of privilege arising out of non-adherence to the directions of the chair vis-a-vis repeated submission of identical notices under Rule 267 by Rajya Sabha MP Sanjay Singh. Now, during the first leg of the budget session, which concluded earlier this month, Rajya Sabha saw repeated disruptions due to protests by the opposition MPs over various issues. Today, we'll discuss and understand various aspects of these rules of procedures and conduct in the Parliament. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Mr. K.V. Prasad is here with us, a senior journalist, has been keeping a close watch on the proceedings of the Parliament for a long while now. And we also have with us Mr. V.K. Agnihotri is joining us, former Secretary General Rajya Sabha, and Mr. Prakash Javadekar, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, and a former Union Minister, is also joining us. Welcome, both of you gentlemen, as well to Sansad Television. I'll begin with you, Mr. Agnihotri, and let's first start by, making our viewers understand a bit more about how the proceedings are conducted. There are rules, there are procedures, and a set of rules and procedures which were drafted by the Ethics Committee was adopted by the Upper House in 2005 as well. There is a set of rules, and then there are, other rules in the rule book also. So how does this all happen in the House as far as the proceedings are concerned?
Well, these rules are prescribed by the House for its members, and there is a rules committee which puts its imprimatur on these rules, and then they are adopted by the House. So these are rules which in a sense are self-governing rules of conduct for the members of the House. These are rules which they have prescribed for themselves. They have not been imposed by anybody else. As a matter of fact, the privileges of members of the House flow from Article 105 of the Constitution of India, which is the fountainhead of the privileges of the members of Parliament. And inter alia, it provides that there is freedom of speech in the Parliament, and that no action can be taken against them for anything that they say in the House or any vote they cast in the House. And it also provides that there can be other rules governing the conduct of the members in the House as and when the Parliament makes a law regarding the privileges.
Okay.
However, the Parliament has so far not made any other rules regarding privileges of the members of the Parliament in the House.
Okay, and Mr. Agnihotri, the rule book also, provides the chairman in the upper house and similarly the speaker in the lower house with certain powers to ensure that there is an orderly conduct of the business proceedings.
Yes, there are several rules in this regard, not only in the rule book, but there is a handbook of for members of Parliament, which has a large number of provisions regarding the etiquette, regarding the conventions, and regarding the conduct of members. There are dozens of such rules which are very strict, and these are all meant to govern the dignified conduct of the members in the House.
Okay. Mr. Javadekar, let me bring you in here. You've been not only a veteran member of Parliament, but also a minister also in the government, handle the parliamentary affairs portfolio as well. From your perspective, running smooth functioning of the House is very essential, and that requires an effort from all stakeholders. most of them, among, of course, the presiding officer, in this case, the chairman of Rajya Sabha as well, wherein, the chairman does have to exercise his powers from time to time to ensure that smooth functioning.
I can say that government called all party meeting before the parliament and assured that you can raise any issue for discussion, and we are ready for debate, discussion, and decision. The issue here is that instead of speaking in the House, some members are now habitual jumping into the wells. They jump in the well and create chaos. The rules made doesn't allow this. And as Agnihotriji rightly said, that the rules are made by the House itself. It is the members' own rules which we need to follow. But even they are so desperate politics they are doing, and therefore, instead of discussion and government's readiness to debate any issue, they didn't listen. And what was serious was that we listened with rapt attention to Khargeji and all others, all other opposition party speakers. We listened to them in attention. But when Prime Minister is speaking, it's an institute. And that is when the opposition was doing disturbances in the House. That was not correct. It is undemocratic. It is unheard of. And if that is the case, then it's a matter of privilege.
Okay.
So what the chairman has done, referred it to the committee. I'm very sure the committee will also, in all seriousness, probe this and will come out with recommendations.
Okay. Mr. Prasad, you've been looking at parliamentary proceedings for years now, and there have been instances in the past as well wherein when we look at the productivity table, it has gone down at a very low level on various occasions, and that has happened because of continuous disruptions over one issue or a couple of issues as well. How do you see this entire period when we're talking about parliamentary proceedings and the smooth conduct of the House as well, and disruptions being a very, very big hurdle there?
Yeah, I think, Vishal, I've been reporting Parliament since 1995, and these scenes have been repeated over the years, which is very unfortunate because you lose precious time. But having said that, there's a small thing I also observed, that times when required, members of Parliament sit late and transact business beyond the normal sitting hours, so they kind of accommodate. And once everything is settled down, when, as I mentioned earlier too in one of your programs, when the government and the opposition parties come to an understanding and they move forward. So this has also happened. So that is one aspect of it. This has been witnessed in the last many years, I've noticed. Disruption should not happen. That's a fact of thing. Rules are there. That's also a fact. How do you move forward from where we are? That is the question. I think repeatedly Parliament themselves, the parliamentarians themselves have started looking at this at a very serious. And if I remember it correctly, 1997, when we observed the 50 years of the Indian independence, there was a 2 days special conference, 2 days special session. Resolution was passed on which every member of Parliament, leader of the parliamentary parties, affixed the signatures, promising among other things not disrupt, including question hour. But one feels sorry, but the fact is it remained a promise. So we have seen this happen, but as I said, it is for members of Parliament themselves, as the rules prescribe. They adopt the rules. Both the houses have their own committees to prescribe the rules, and it is their house. They have to follow.
And action has been taken on numerous occasions against those members who have violated these rules of conduct and procedures.
Yes, they have been taken. In fact, in the last few years, in the last 8-9 years ago, the attempt was made to kind of name and shame. Members' name who came to the well of the house, so they were named, and the whole idea was to identify them. But that has not has any salutary effect, if one were to use that word. I think it continued the practice of this thing, and if you really notice it, from the mid 80s, this has been something which has crept into the Indian parliamentary the way in which we look at parliament function.
Okay, okay. So it is a recurrent problem. We'll come to that aspect as well. But let me also first understand one more thing from Mr. Agnihotri. Mr. Agnihotri, two things we'd like to understand since we're talking about an issue here. Mr. Javadekar also referred to that in terms of the issue being referred to the Privileges Committee. One is, when does the question of privilege arise and is referred to the the Privileges Committee? And two, how does it move ahead in the Privileges Committee?
Privileges are of three types. One is privilege of the individual member. Another is privilege of the council or the Rajya Sabha or the house. And third is the privilege of the committee. And as I have said already, they are derived from Article 105, freedom of speech, basic thing. Now, if freedom of speech is there, then people should be not only free to speak, but they have a right to be heard. Otherwise, what is the purpose of the freedom of speech? So that is one of the privileges. Otherwise, of course, members' privileges can be violated in different ways. If they are arrested unnecessarily or harassed by the administration, or they are taken into custody for something they do in the house, or there can be so many things which the rules prescribe. If they are not followed, then there can be question of privilege. Now, referring the matter to the Privileges Committee, again has two ways of doing it. One is that a motion is moved in the House by some member to refer a matter to the Privileges Committee relating to any of the three things, that is, whether it is his own privilege that has been violated. Some members have done it, saying that I have a privilege to ask questions. If question is disturbed, then my privilege has been violated. So the motion is moved by that member, that matter may be referred to Privileges Committee. Or if it is a matter relating to the council or the house, then any member can move a matter to refer to move a motion to refer that matter to the Privileges Committee.
Okay.
And then the motion is taken up for consideration in the House, and if it is adopted, then the chairman refers it to Privileges Committee. That is one way. The other is the Rule 203 that you mentioned, where the chairman suo motu can also refer a matter to Privileges Committee, and which has been done in the present case.
Okay. 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 Coming back to the issue of disruption there, Mr. Javadekar, since all this is born out of the fact that there were disruptions in the House, there was slogan shouting as well, and that has been taken cognizance of by the chairman. How, in your wisdom, in your experience as a veteran parliamentarian, as a minister as well, and a parliamentarian who has been on both sides, on the treasury benches as well as on the opposition benches also, how do you see the way ahead, the solution? Where does the solution lies to ensure that there is smooth functioning of the parliament? And all stakeholders have to be involved here.
I always say that government has to be responsive, but for that, opposition has to be responsible. And we have seen this session, without any provocation, two parties decided to boycott the president's speech for the joint session. This is unheard of. And therefore, everybody condemned it. And the same party which declares itself as anarchist have done it. And we have seen one member going up the table of the table office, and in front of chairman, the way they threw many things at the chairman's chair. In last session, we have seen all this. So this is nothing but a deliberate attempt to undermine democracy. And as once again, I will tell you that we heard them in rapt attention. Nobody disturbed their speeches. And precisely President's speech and budget were both the opportunities for the opposition parties to raise any issue. And particularly, they wanted to issue a business matter of one company. They could have done it. But instead of doing that, they are actually bereft of the issues. They don't have any issues. And now they are working to the toolkit,
Okay.
which is in operation now.
Okay. But how do
No
we?
issues means, I'll just tell, no
Yeah.
issues means they raised the issue once when the symbol of Ashok, Chimna, was put on the new parliament house. This was never thought of. It is the same replica of the original Ashok Stamba, but they raised that issue also. So what is happening is the series of accusations. They don't want discussion because they don't want answer.
Mhm.
They just want to spit and run. And that is not democracy.
Okay. Okay. So the opposition will have to be responsible, Mr. Javadekar says, and the government will have to be responsive in listening to the opposition and responding to the issues which are raised. Mr. Prasad, from your experience as a parliamentary journalist, who's covered these proceedings, there have been occasions of disruptions earlier as well, and those have been resolved as well. The House has then functioned smoothly. You also mentioned that there have been occasions when the members have, sat beyond the working hours of the House as well and disposed of the business, which is listed there. So, how is the way forward from here onwards to ensure that the disruptions can be dealt with? Because ultimately, if that does not happen, then the presiding officer, in this case the chairman in the upper house, has no other option but to resort to the rules and procedures book and exercise his powers.
Vishal, I think I did mention in one of your programs earlier too, where I said parliamentary democracy and the way is a spirit of accommodation. And the adage is the opposition can have its say, the government will have its way. Because at the end of the day, the government has a business to conduct, it has the affairs of the country, it has to work on it. So there is a mutual, so while the opposition is free to raise issues it wants to raise in a prescribed rules and format and various procedures which are available, eventually the government will have to respond to saying that, and that's where the classic case of accountability comes into play. Now, how do you go about it? It's like there will be a standoff at times, there will be very sharp positions taken. Then they try and see where is the meeting ground, how do we come and resolve it, because eventually both belong to parliament, whether it is the governing the government and the opposition, they together form the Parliament of India. And Parliament of India is, the members of Parliament are representatives of the people who have elected them. So it's a whole system that has been built around it, and it has been working in that, and many of these are run by conventions. Besides rules, conventions set the way of parliamentary function, and that's what shows the way.
Okay, okay. Mr. Agnihotri, as Secretary General of the Upper House, you've been part of the proceedings for a long time as the senior most, officer of the House there. So in your experience, the way you witnessed it, the way you interpret or look at the rules and the procedures book also, how to ensure smooth functioning and going by the rule book only?
Somewhere there has to be a meeting ground. And apart from the formal structure, somewhere in some informal system, the opposition and the government have to come together and come to some understanding as to how to proceed further. Unless that is done and something comes out of that, there is no, understanding and no sort of way out of this present morass that we are into, and we are heading towards more confusion.
Okay, okay. And if the situation continues to be the same, then the rules and procedure books will have to be referred to specifically by the presiding officer, the chairman of the House. Is it right, Mr. Agnihotri? That's the last resort.
Yes, there is no way out. And as a matter of fact, the Privileges Committee has been quite active in the past. And as I mentioned, that members have mentioned or moved motion about violation of their privilege, and they have been referred to there. And the Privileges Committee functions more or less like a court. Like a court. So both sides appear before it and present their point of view. And then the Privileges Committee decides or gives its decision.
Okay.
That decision is then placed before the House, and the House adopts the recommendation of the Privileges Committee through a motion moved, and then the further action is taken accordingly.
Okay. Okay.
So this is the way out. Otherwise,
This is what the rule book says. Now, Mr. Javadekar, in a fortnight or so, we'll come back to the second part of the budget session. So, as you are also referring to, Mr. Javadekar, Mr. Agnihotri is saying, Mr. Prasad is also mentioning, there has to be a meeting ground somewhere. So, are we likely to see that meeting ground to ensure smooth functioning from the government's point of view, from the Treasury bench's point of view? What is it that the government is willing to do?
Meeting ground can be arrived if opposition is logical and opposition wants House to function. If their desire and their plan is not to allow House to function, then I don't see there is meeting ground. What is important is direction of chairman are always final. And fortunately, we have chairman who is a legal luminary and has the experience of parliament earlier also and was minister also. And so he has given all his rulings with comprehensive backing of an explanation fully. So now is the issue that opposition has to settle it, whether they want discussion or not, because we have majority. People have given us majority, that is democracy. You have been not given majority, you are in minority, but still House gives you opportunity to debate any issue. That will always be there, and we will also say that there has to be opportunity to put all the views. But if nobody is ready to put the views and jump, they want to jump in the well only and create disruption, that is the problem of opposition parties. Because, as I said, they are bereft of any issues, and now they are targeting 2024 election, no issue. All parties should prepare. That's a democratic fight. But why you are bringing that into the House and not allowing it to function? After all, it's people's money.
Indeed. Indeed.
It goes waste.
Indeed, it is. And the highest seat of democracy as far as India is concerned, Parliament there, meant for debate, discussion. That is what the ultimate motive is. Thank you so much, Mr. Javadekar, Mr. Agnihotri, and Mr. Prasad as well for sharing your views and insight as our experts were pointing out details of the rules of procedure and conduct in the Parliament, which is governed by those rules. Debate and discussion is the key of the functioning of Parliament. Smooth functioning is required for that purpose. When that does not happen, then the chairman or the chair in the House is left with no option but to revert to the rules and act accordingly as well. We'll keep a close watch on all the developments in the Parliament and keep on bringing you detailed analysis on those issues and various others as well. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.